Lies don't rot in silence. They scream in the shadows until someone is forced to speak. Chosen one, right now there's a person who is crumbling under the very weight of their own deception, and they're begging someone, anyone, to tell the world that you never tried to hurt a soul. Now imagine this for a moment. Someone built a house of cards out of rumors and false stories about you, smiling as they thought it would stand forever. But now the wind of truth has arrived and the entire structure is collapsing in front of them. The universe has a strange way of balancing the scales, and facts always prove that false accusations demand more energy to maintain than the truth itself ever needs. Studies in psychology even confirm that keeping up lies drains the mind and body faster than honesty, and that's exactly why this enemy is breaking down right now. They thought they were clever, but their own lies have become a cage, and they are trapped inside it. And thank you, Chosen One, for being here and listening. Don't forget to give back to this message by simply pressing the like and subscribe button to help spread these words to more souls, because it's the responsibility of all of us to shine light where darkness tries to hide. Thank you, Chosen One, for being part of this mission. You are not just a listener, you are part of a force. Now let's come back to the truth at hand. This entire drama isn't just gossip or petty jealousy. It's a campaign, an orchestrated attempt to smear your name and twist reality. But here's the irony. The more they tried to paint you as the villain, the more they revealed their own reflection. Their accusations weren't just untrue, they were projections of the very poison living inside them. And now the universe is pushing their secrets into the open. They can't hold the mask anymore, and the panic is setting in because the lies they spread about you are finally snapping back against them like a whip. Think of it this way: when someone throws mud, their own hands get dirtier than the target ever will. That's what's happening now. Every rumor, every whisper, every story they spread about you has left stains on their own reputation, while you walk forward with clarity and light. They wanted everyone to believe you were the danger, but their energy betrayed them, and now the world is seeing the truth. That's why they're begging someone else to come forward and announce that you never tried to harm anyone, because they don't have the courage to face you directly. What's important to understand here is that this isn't born out of guilt. They're not suddenly good-hearted or remorseful. This desperation comes from fear, raw, undeniable fear. They're realizing that in trying to destroy you, they actually declared war on something bigger than themselves. They thought you were just another person they could manipulate, but the universe has been standing beside you all along, and now it's making sure their downfall is public, undeniable, and complete. Their terror is not imaginary, it's real, because every corner they turn, the consequences are waiting for them. And Chosen One, here's what makes this even more powerful. Their attempt to discredit you has actually worked in your favor. Every attack woke something up inside you, strengths you didn't even know you had, clarity you didn't know you could access, and resilience that has now made you magnetic in ways they can't understand. The more they plotted against you, the more the universe sharpened you into someone unstoppable. It's almost poetic. Their jealousy gave you wings. Their deception gave you wisdom. Their betrayal gave you power. So what's unfolding right now isn't just exposure, it's the complete unraveling of their strategy. First comes their obsession, then their deception, and finally their collapse. And at the end of it all, the truth will stand clear. Every accusation was a projection, every attack was fueled by envy, and every attempt to hurt you only lifted you higher. They're not confessing because they want to heal. They're confessing because they've run out of options. And the truth is forcing itself out. The universe allowed this not to destroy you, but to reveal you. You were never a villain in their story. You were the test they failed, the mirror they couldn't face, and now the evidence of their collapse will serve as your testimony. By the end of this journey, chosen one, you will see that what was meant to bury you only planted you deeper, so that your growth could break the surface in ways no lie could ever stop. So, chosen one, before we go any further, let me ask you this. Are you ready to hear every layer of what's happening behind your back? Drop a comment below with the number 777 if you feel the shift. If you know deep down the universe is exposing the lies and forcing the truth to the surface. And if this message resonates with you, take a moment to support the mission, whether it's with a like, a share, or a super thanks. Every little push, no matter if it's a penny or a fortune, fuels the light that keeps these messages alive and spreading to more souls who need them. You're not just watching, you're participating in something bigger, something that keeps the truth moving forward against every shadow. And now, chosen one, let's dive into it step by step. Believe me when I say this. If you are truly chosen, you will feel something pulling you to stay until the very end of this message, because the revelations ahead are not just words, they're confirmations of everything you already sensed in your spirit. So lean in, stay with me, because what comes next will not only explain why they're begging to clear your name, but also reveal how their own downfall has become your elevation. Let's get started. Number 1. The predator in the shadows. Jealous eyes don't just watch you, they stalk you, waiting for the moment they can twist your light into their lie. Chosen one, let me make this clear. Before you even knew there was a battle, they were already studying you. Not admiring, not supporting, studying, like a vulture circling a body that hasn't even fallen yet. This wasn't curiosity, it was predation, and that's what makes it even more brutal. They were watching you with the intensity of a starving wolf, all because your very existence reminded them of everything they were not. They couldn't look at you without feeling the sting of their own inadequacy. Now imagine this for a moment. You're walking through life, just being yourself, while someone sits silently in the corner, obsessing over every move you make. You're not competing with them, you're not even thinking about them, but they're clocking your every breath like you're a puzzle they can't solve. They see doors swing open for you that slam shut in their face. They watch people gravitate toward your energy while their own presence gets ignored or tolerated at best. Every success you touch feels to them like salt being rubbed into an open wound. And here's the fact the enemy doesn't want admitted out loud. This wasn't about you doing anything to them. Psychologists call it relative deprivation. When someone feels pain, not because they're failing, but because they're comparing themselves to someone else's progress. You became their measuring stick, their proof that the universe flows differently for you. And that truth burned them more deeply than failure itself. That's why they watched in silence for so long, because every moment of your rise was a dagger to their ego. Let's answer the question you might be thinking right now. Why didn't they just focus on themselves? Why waste so much energy shadowing your every move instead of building their own path? Because envy is parasitic. It doesn't build, it feeds. It doesn't create, it consumes. They couldn't stand to work for years towards something only to watch you manifest it effortlessly. They couldn't stomach how your energy pulled opportunities into your orbit while theirs scattered like dust in the wind. You became living proof that effort without alignment is wasted, and instead of learning from you, they turned you into their silent obsession. Chosen one, do you see how dangerous that is? When someone watches you this way, they're not just keeping tabs, they're scheming. They're trying to decode what can't be copied, replicate what can't be stolen, and control what can't be owned. Your natural connection to the universe is something they will never understand because it isn't learned. it's lived. And so, what terrifies them most is that they can't touch it. They can't block it. They can't explain it away. All they can do is watch while you move in flow, and they remain stuck in friction. Think of it like this. Imagine someone trying to trap the wind in a jar. They run themselves ragged, chasing gusts, only to end up with empty hands. That's what watching you felt like to them. You were the wind, everywhere, moving things, shaping things, and they were stuck, holding nothing. But here's where it gets darker. Watching wasn't enough. The more they observed, the more restless they became. The more they tried to copy, the more foolish they looked. And so, their silent watching turned into silent plotting. They weren't just fascinated, they were furious. And you might ask, why you? Why did they target you when there are countless others they could have obsessed over? Because you weren't supposed to succeed in their eyes. You weren't supposed to shine so brightly. Not in their presence. They had already written their script of superiority, and your existence shredded it to pieces. To them, you didn't just win, you ruined their illusion. That's why they stalked your moves like predators. You were their personal undoing, and they hated you for it. But let me flip this pain into power, chosen one. What does it mean when someone watches you this obsessively? It means you're significant. It means you matter so much that even your smallest steps echo like thunder in the minds of your enemies. They wouldn't waste years studying you if you were average. They wouldn't memorize your habits if you were forgettable. The very fact that they watched proves that you are extraordinary. Let that sink in. Your enemies became your audience, your unwilling fans, addicted to your light, even as it destroyed them. And here's the ultimate irony. In trying to understand you, they exposed themselves. In trying to imitate your flow, they revealed their lack of it. In trying to shadow you, they lost sight of their own path completely. Their obsession with you became the noose around their own ambitions. They thought they were predators, but in reality, they were prisoners, locked in a cage of their own envy, with you as the mirror they couldn't break. So, chosen one, take this as fuel. Every glare, every whisper, every silent observer in your life, they are proof you're living in alignment with forces they can't touch. Their watchful eyes are just background noise to your rise. You didn't just survive their silent study, you thrived because of it. And now their silence is cracking. They're no longer just watchers, they're beggars, desperate to rewrite the narrative and tell the world you never tried to hurt anyone. Why? Because the truth has backed them into a corner, and the same eyes that once studied you with envy are now looking for a way out of their own collapse. The predator in the shadows never realized the real danger was not you, but the reflection they saw in you. They weren't watching prey, they were watching a mirror of their own weakness, and that, chosen one, is why their story will never end in victory. Because no matter how hard they tried to silence your shine, the universe made sure their silence only became the evidence of your unstoppable rise. Number 2, the twisted theater of jealousy. Jealousy doesn't just envy your success, it rewrites your victories into crimes you never committed. Chosen one, this is the brutal truth. Instead of cheering you on, instead of learning from your path, they weaponized their envy against you. They didn't see your rise as proof that the universe has enough for everyone. No. In their warped logic, your blessings were a direct insult to their failures. Every time you won, they swore they lost. Every door that opened for you felt, to them, like a door being slammed in their face. Now imagine this for a moment. You're planting a garden. You water your seeds, you nurture them, and the flowers bloom because you put in the work. Meanwhile, your neighbor refuses to touch their soil. Instead of planting, they sit on the fence, staring at your blossoms, and the moment your flowers open, they curse you for having what they refuse to grow. This is exactly how your enemies moved. They didn't build, they didn't plant, they didn't grind. They just stared at your harvest and convinced themselves it was stolen from their land. And here's where the twisted logic shows its ugliest face. They convinced themselves that if they could pull you down, your blessings would somehow jump into their hands. It's childish, but it's also vicious. Psychologists call this zero-sum bias, the toxic belief that if someone else gains, it must mean you've lost something. In reality, the universe is abundant, but in their small, dark minds, abundance doesn't exist. To them, your glow stole their shine. Your rise was their personal downfall. And instead of reflecting on their own stagnation, they projected it all onto you. You might ask, Chosen One, why would someone think this way? Why not just use your success as inspiration? The answer is simple. Inspiration requires humility. To learn from you, they'd have to admit you're ahead, admit you carry something they don't, admit that maybe they've been moving wrong all this time, and their ego was too inflated to allow that kind of honesty. So they chose the coward's path, to turn your very existence into a threat. Envy doesn't want your success, it wants your downfall. That's why instead of celebrating, they plotted. Instead of listening, they schemed. And here's the most disturbing part of their confession. They began documenting your life. Every move, every connection, every word that left your mouth, they were recording it, not to understand, but to destroy. This wasn't admiration, it was surveillance. They weren't watching to grow. They were profiling you like investigators building a case, except the crime never existed. Now imagine this, Chosen One, you're walking through life with authenticity, and someone else is building a dark scrapbook of your existence. Every smile you give, they interpret as manipulation. Every win you secure, they frame as theft. Every connection you nurture, they label as a weapon. While you were simply living, they were twisting your life into a distorted narrative where they were the victim and you were the villain. And you might wonder, why would they go to such extremes? Why not just let you be? Because in their mind, your success was unbearable. It wasn't just envy, it was torment. They woke up with your name in their head, slept with your achievements haunting their dreams, and lived every day with the shadow of your glow, mocking their stagnation. That's why their confession reveals so much. They weren't just jealous, they were obsessed. Jealousy is nothing but admiration that refuses to say thank you. They couldn't admit they admired you, so they turned it into hate. They couldn't admit they learned from watching you, so they twisted their observations into evidence against you. They convinced themselves that the more they studied your patterns, the more power they'd have to dismantle you. And yet, what happened? The more they studied, the more invisible your strategy became. The more they documented, the more ungraspable your essence grew. Think of it like trying to copy a flame by tracing its smoke. The more they chased, the more nothing they caught. That's what envy does. It fools people into thinking they can steal what isn't transferable. Your blessings were never theirs to take, your light was never theirs to hold, and your path was never theirs to walk. But still, they tried, and that's why they're now terrified enough to beg someone else to step forward and say you never tried to hurt anyone. Because deep down, they know the twisted story they created won't survive much longer. Chosen One, let's answer another question that might be circling your mind. If they truly believed tearing you down would give them your blessings, why haven't they gained anything? The answer is brutal, because energy doesn't work that way. You cannot steal alignment. You cannot inherit destiny through sabotage. The universe doesn't reward destruction with abundance. What they received instead was collapse, because in trying to drag you down, They only exposed the emptiness of their own foundation. Now imagine this, someone standing at the edge of a cliff watching you soar with wings, and instead of learning to build their own, they try to grab your feathers mid-flight. What happens? They fall. That's exactly what their confession reveals. They didn't just fail to steal from you, they doomed themselves by choosing envy over growth. Envy doesn't see the effort, it only sees the outcome and hates you for it. They never saw your sleepless nights. They never saw your private battles. They only saw the results, and because they couldn't replicate them, they convinced themselves you didn't deserve them. That's why their twisted logic turned so dark. To them, your victories weren't just blessings, they were personal insults. And now, chosen one, the truth is clawing its way out. Their twisted narrative can't stand because it was never built on truth to begin with. They are confessing because they can no longer hold the weight of their own lies. The surveillance, the whisper campaigns, the character assassinations, they all collapsed under the reality that you never tried to hurt anyone. And while they wasted years documenting your life, the universe documented theirs. Every jealous thought, every manipulative plot, every envious scheme, it's all recorded in the fabric of cause and effect, and now it's returning to them with full force. So don't ever doubt yourself. Don't ever question why you were targeted. You weren't targeted because you were weak. You were targeted because you were strong, because you embodied the abundance they couldn't comprehend. Their twisted logic turned you into an enemy, but in reality, you were the mirror that showed them what they refused to face. And now, chosen one, their confession is nothing but the sound of envy eating itself alive, proving once again that your rise was never theirs to control, and your blessings were never theirs to steal. Number 3. Digital daggers in the dark. Cowards don't fight face to face. They hide behind screens, stabbing with pixels instead of steel. Chosen one, their envy wasn't enough in the physical world, so they dragged their hate into the digital battlefield. Their confession makes it clear. They weaponized technology like a blunt instrument, hoping fake images and forged conversations would cut deeper than any truth ever could. They weren't content with whispers. They wanted receipts, even if they had to forge every single one. Imagine this for a moment. You wake up, and the world has been handed a false version of you. Pictures edited, words twisted, timestamps manipulated, your very identity hijacked. They studied Photoshop like it was scripture, bending pixels into lies, creating deepfakes that painted crimes you never committed. Screenshots became their bullets, and social media became their war zone. To the untrained eye, it looked convincing, but to the universe, it was laughable. Because no fabricated digital shadow can ever rewrite the light you walk in. You might ask, why go this far? Why invest so much energy into forging lies? The answer is fear. Gossip dies quickly, but evidence lingers. They believed that if they could manufacture digital proof, they could bury you permanently. Psychologists call this escalation. The point where an envious mind convinces itself that ordinary sabotage isn't enough. They needed to build entire stories, entire versions of you to justify their hatred. And they didn't stop at fakes. They built whole ghost armies of profiles, accounts designed to spy, to spread, to fabricate entire digital worlds where you were the villain. They studied your vocabulary, your writing rhythm, even the speed of your replies, just so they could impersonate you with terrifying precision. This wasn't just gossip, it was identity theft at the psychological level, a direct assault on who you are. But here's the irony, chosen one, While they obsessed over your shadow, they missed your substance. They thought destroying your digital reflection would destroy your essence. They thought they could erase you with keystrokes. But the truth? Their lies will rot faster than the code they typed them with. Technology is powerful, yes, but truth is immortal. And every false file, every fake screenshot, every fabricated timestamp will one day stand as evidence of nothing but their desperation. So let them play with shadows, chosen one, because shadows only exist when there's light, and you are the reason theirs can't be hidden anymore. Number 4. Turning innocence into ammunition. Only the lowest kind of enemy hides their dagger behind a child's smile. Chosen one, this part of their confession is the ugliest cut of all. They didn't just target you, they went after the purest souls connected to your life. In their twisted campaign, they dragged children and family bonds into their battlefield, using innocence as a shield for their venom. This wasn't rivalry anymore. This was cruelty dressed up as concern. Imagine this for a moment. A family gathering, laughter in the air, kids playing freely, and then, like poison in a glass of water, they start whispering. They're unstable. They're dangerous. They're a bad influence. They knew exactly what they were doing, because nothing sparks panic faster than the suggestion of harm toward children. They played on primal instincts, betting that fear would turn loved ones against you faster than reason ever could. You might ask, why would they stoop so low? The answer is cowardice. They knew they couldn't beat you head-on, so they attacked where they thought you'd be most defenseless, your ties of love. They believed if they infected your happiest spaces with suspicion, you'd break under the pressure. But here's the fact they forgot. Children see energy clearer than adults. They can feel truth even when words lie. And the kids they tried to use instinctively recoiled, sensing something dark in the manipulator's presence. Envy that touches innocence signs its own death warrant. That's exactly what happened. Their plan backfired with karmic precision. While they tried to stain your name, their own family bonds began to fray. Arguments erupted in their homes. Relationships collapsed under the same poison they unleashed. Even their own children grew distant, restless, resistant, because the universe doesn't allow the exploitation of innocence without consequences. Now imagine this. They set out to turn children into weapons, but ended up firing those weapons at themselves. The more they tried to twist young minds against you, the more those young hearts saw through them. Their manipulation became a mirror, reflecting their toxicity back into their own households. And instead of isolating you, their actions isolated them. So, chosen one, let this sink in. Their lowest act became their heaviest curse. By weaponizing innocence, they revealed their true nature to everyone watching. And no matter how many whispers they planted, the truth has already taken root. Their confession proves it. They weren't just envious, they were desperate enough to play with fire in the most unforgivable way. And now, it is that very fire that burns down their own house. Number 5. The Puppet Master's Web. Manipulators don't just lie, they build entire theaters where they play every role but the truth. Chosen one, their confession rips the mask clean off. This was never random gossip. It was warfare, carefully mapped out like a military operation. They weren't content to simply whisper. No, they staged themselves as the concerned friend, the protective family member, the rational outsider. To your partner, they claimed they saw red flags. To your friends, they postured as the voice of reason. To your family, they wrapped themselves in fake concern, pretending their sabotage was care. Now imagine this for a moment, a spider in the corner, weaving a web thread by thread, patient and deliberate. That's exactly how they moved, calculating where to place each string of doubt so that anyone close to you would eventually get stuck. They didn't speak truth, they performed it. Every word was theater, every gesture rehearsed. But here's the irony. No matter how perfect the mask, cracks always show when the script is built on lies. And the cracks came fast. People noticed inconsistencies. Some wondered, why does their story keep changing? Why do they always seem too eager to prove something? The more elaborate their lies became, the heavier the performance grew. They were juggling photoshopped images, fabricated conversations, fake emergencies, and it started slipping through their fingers. Lies multiply like wildfire, and they needed spreadsheets just to track the chaos they created. Imagine that, Chosen One, an entire database dedicated to manufacturing a fake version of you. Who does that except someone completely consumed by obsession? Control freaks always lose control to the very lies they spin. That's the brutal truth here. In trying to manage everyone's perception, they revealed themselves as manipulators. People who once listened began to distrust them. Friends who once believed started to notice patterns. Their obsession betrayed them, because only an obsessed mind goes to such extremes to rewrite reality. So let's answer the question you might be thinking: why didn't their web hold? Because webs are fragile. They can trap for a moment, but they can't withstand truth. Every false strand snapped under its own weight. And now, Chosen One, their confession proves it. They weren't protectors, they were puppeteers. They weren't concerned, they were consumed. And in the end, their web didn't bind you. It strangled them. Number 6. Poisoning the heart's garden. Envy doesn't just want your downfall. It wants to rewrite your love story and steal the chapters meant for you. Chosen One, their confession about your love life is one of the darkest revelations of all. They knew nothing cuts deeper than doubt between two people, so that's where they drove their blade. They whispered in your partner's ear, planting seeds of suspicion, watering them with lies, until those doubts sprouted like weeds. They didn't just gossip, they manufactured evidence, fake screenshots, fabricated messages, staged discoveries designed so your partner would trip over lies and believe they had found the truth themselves. That's not just deception, that's psychological ambush. Imagine this for a moment. You're building a garden of love, nurturing it with care, while in the shadows, someone sneaks in at night, scattering weeds among your flowers. Every morning, you wake up wondering why the soil feels poisoned, why the roots are struggling, never realizing that a saboteur has been tampering with your garden all along. That's what they did. They couldn't stand to see you happy, so they tried to choke the very roots of your relationships. And it didn't stop there. They didn't just target what you had. They targeted what you could have. Every new potential partner, every fresh connection, they worked to poison it before it could grow. They spread rumors like venom, scaring off people who might have brought joy into your life. And in some of the sickest twists, they even tried to slide themselves into the narrative as the better option. They built love triangles out of lies, staging chaos so they could present themselves as the rescuer, when in reality they were the arsonist who lit the fire. Manipulators don't want love, they want possession. That's why they failed. Because real love doesn't bend to fraud. Real connection doesn't collapse under fabricated screenshots. And Chosen One, here's the truth they could never predict. Every attack on your love life was nothing but the universe's sorting system. The weak links snapped, the counterfeit bonds broke, and the people who weren't meant for you were cleared out of the way. What remained? only the ones strong enough to stand beside you through the storm. So don't ever mistake their sabotage as a loss. Their schemes didn't steal your love story, they proofread it. They crossed out the wrong names, leaving space for the right ones to enter. And now their confession proves it. They never destroyed your love life. They only exposed who was real, who was fake, and who never deserved you in the first place. Number 7. Battling the light they couldn't touch. Envy doesn't stop at your name. It reaches for your soul when it realizes your success can't be stolen. Chosen one, their confession takes us into the darkest chamber of their obsession. Spiritual warfare. Lies weren't enough. Manipulation wasn't enough. Technology, gossip, fake evidence, none of it could break you. So they escalated. They dove into the shadows of manifestation and energy work, not to grow, but to twist. They weren't students of truth. They were scavengers of darkness, looking for any tool to aim against you. Imagine this for a moment. Someone staring at your light like it's a locked vault. They don't want to build their own. They want to steal yours. They search grimy back alleys for counterfeit keys, praying one will break the lock. Rituals, curses, incantations, they tried it all. They sought out practitioners, whispered to shadows, and hurled spiritual darts, convinced they could drain your energy, reroute your blessings, and cripple your momentum. But here's the brutal fact. You can't steal destiny. You can't reroute what was never flowing to you in the first place. Darkness may throw its stones, but it always breaks its own hand. And that's exactly what happened. Every ritual recoiled. Every curse snapped back. Technology betrayed them when they tried to frame you. Files glitched. Lies contradicted themselves. Coincidences revealed truths they couldn't bury. Their rituals left them sick, drained, paranoid, even haunted. They had nightmares, visions of you glowing, untouchable, surrounded by forces they couldn't name, let alone control. The harder they fought, the more they realized they weren't battling a single person. They were battling universal law itself. And you might ask, Chosen One, why did it all backfire so violently? Because energy doesn't lie. You can't redirect what isn't yours, and you can't weaponize what you don't understand. The universe doesn't bend to bitterness. It bends to alignment. And while you stayed aligned, they stayed obsessed, and that obsession became their own curse. So let this be your reminder. They never had power over you. They only had schemes, and their confession proves that in trying to touch your spirit, they ended up burning their own. They weren't fighting you, Chosen One. They were fighting light itself, and every round left them more broken than before. Number 8. When the universe strikes back. Every lie you throw at the light returns as a blade aimed at your own throat. Chosen One, their confession shows us the part that chills them most. The universe itself stepped in. This wasn't just karma taking its sweet time. This was instant, surgical, undeniable. Phones crashed the moment they tried to forge screenshots. Computers froze mid-edit as if the files themselves rejected their poison. The internet cut out at the exact second they pressed post. These weren't glitches. These were warnings. Imagine this for a moment. Someone trying to fire a gun, only for the barrel to twist and point back at them. That's what every digital sabotage turned into. Each time they spread lies about you, an inconvenient truth about them surfaced. Their attempt to bury you became the spotlight on their own corruption. It was balance in its purest form, cause and effect, echo and return, all orchestrated by forces beyond their comprehension. Energy doesn't disappear, it ricochets, and the ricochet hit them harder than they ever expected. their bodies began carrying the weight of their malice. Bruises appeared with no explanation. Illnesses drained them. Reflections warped in mirrors, reminding them of the darkness they unleashed. Nightmares plagued their sleep. The curses they launched didn't touch you. They poisoned their own bloodstream. And you might ask, Chosen One, why was the backlash so precise? Because lies are unstable. They require constant fuel, constant maintenance. Truth, however, is self-sustaining. The moment they stepped into fabrication, they stepped into quicksand, and every thrash only pulled them deeper. They weren't just fighting against you. They were fighting against the universal law of balance, and no human hand can win that fight. So let this sink in. Every attack became their downfall. Every scheme became their undoing. Their confession is proof they didn't just lose to you. They lost to the very system of justice woven into reality. They thought they were cursing you, Chosen One, but in truth they were signing their own sentence, one glitch, one collapse, one bruise at a time. Number 9. When the mask shattered. A lie can sprint for a season, but truth always walks it down in the end. Chosen One, their confession admits the collapse wasn't gradual. It was sudden, brutal, and unstoppable. The house of cards they spent months, even years, stacking with precision, came crashing down in a single gust of truth. People they manipulated began comparing notes, and the cracks spread like wildfire. One story contradicted another. Timelines didn't match. Evidence they swore was airtight vanished like smoke. Even their most loyal ally, the one they leaned on as their shield, started asking questions they couldn't answer. That was the beginning of the end. Imagine this for a moment. A stage play, meticulously rehearsed, lights shining, the actor ready to perform. But then, right in the middle of their lines, the curtain rips, the lights cut, and the audience sees the strings, the wires, the cheap props. That's what happened to them. Their theater of lies was exposed as nothing more than a bad performance, and the crowd they thought they controlled suddenly saw the fraud in full daylight. Truth doesn't need detectives. It reveals itself through alignment. That's what broke them. It wasn't investigators knocking on doors. It was dreams, intuition, and synchronicities pulling the veil down. People started having visions, gut feelings, uncanny coincidences pointing directly at the real deceiver. The universe itself whispered the truth into ears that once believed the lies. And when that kind of revelation hits, no evidence, no mask, no story can hold up against it. And here's the dagger. They weren't just betrayed by truth. They were betrayed by their own circle. Some of the people they thought they controlled had been documenting everything all along. Screenshots, recordings, notes kept in silence, waiting, watching. Their allies were never truly allies. They were actors in their own downfall, nodding along until the perfect moment came to flip the script and expose them publicly. So Chosen One, understand this. Their collapse wasn't random. It was justice. Their empire of deception rotted from within because lies are built on sand and sand never holds. Their confession proves it. Those they thought were loyal turned against them. Those they thought were blind saw clearly, and the performance they thought would crown them instead stripped them bare for everyone to see. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered. Number 10. When the law came knocking. Lies don't just break trust, they break laws, and the bill always comes due. Chosen One, their confession makes it plain. Their schemes didn't stay in the shadows. They crossed lines that carried real-world consequences. Identity theft, defamation, harassment. What they thought was clever manipulation turned into criminal behavior, and once those boundaries were crossed, it wasn't just whispers anymore. It was attorneys, lawsuits, and the cold hand of legal accountability tightening around their neck. Imagine this for a moment, someone playing with fire, laughing as the sparks dance, until suddenly the blaze leaps out of control and sets their whole house on fire. That's what happened when they weaponized lies and technology. The flames of their deceit spread too far, burning through social circles, searing reputations, and finally reaching the courts. People they targeted stopped being silent victims. They became plaintiffs. Screenshots, recordings, and testimony piled up like bricks in a wall that trapped the manipulator inside. Reputation is like glass. Once cracked, it never looks the same again. Socially, their collapse was just as brutal as the legal one. Word spread quickly. Friends whispered warnings. Colleagues distanced themselves. Their name became synonymous with toxicity, manipulation, and danger. What they built over years rotted in weeks. They weren't respected. They were avoided. They weren't believed. They were exposed. And the more they tried to defend themselves, the deeper they sank, because every justification contradicted another, every excuse added weight to the evidence already stacked against them. You might ask, chosen one, did they ever get the chance to flip the script? The truth is, they tried, desperately. They clawed, they cried, they crafted new lies to cover the old ones. But lies have an expiration date, and the shelf life of their deception was over. Truth doesn't expire, it endures. And while truth stood tall, their excuses crumbled into dust. So let this stand as proof. The universe doesn't just balance energy, it enforces consequences. Socially, they became outcasts. Legally, they became liabilities. Financially, they bled under the weight of lawsuits and fees. They thought they could twist reality without cost, but reality came back with interest. Their confession shows us the end game. Manipulation isn't power, it's a prison. And now they're the one locked inside. Number 11. The mind that ate itself. Envy doesn't just poison others, it devours the one who carries it first. Chosen one, when their empire of lies finally collapsed, so did their mind. Their confession shows that the exposure didn't just strip away their schemes, it stripped away their mask. Every motive, every method, every ritual they thought was hidden in shadow was dragged into the light. And with nothing left to hide behind, they weren't seen as a victim anymore. They were seen for what they always were, obsessed, jealous, and dangerous. Imagine this for a moment, a stage actor who's played their role so long they've forgotten who they are. Then, mid-performance, the costume is ripped off in front of the crowd. Suddenly, the character vanishes, and the trembling, desperate fraud is all that remains. That's what happened to them. Once the mask was gone, the world no longer saw a concerned friend or a protective ally. They saw an unstable mind consumed by envy. Obsession is a cage with invisible bars, and they built it themselves. Their obsession became public knowledge, whispered in circles they once controlled, passed around as warnings. They weren't respected anymore. They were dissected. Every move they made was interpreted as further proof of their instability. Their name stopped being associated with authority and became a punchline, a story people traded as a cautionary tale. And you might ask, chosen one, why does envy lead to such a collapse? Because obsession feeds on secrecy. It survives in shadows. The moment it's dragged into daylight, it withers. Their rituals, their manipulations, their twisted logic, all of it shriveled once people saw it for what it was. Exposure didn't just ruin their reputation, it fractured their identity. The role they'd been playing for so long disintegrated, leaving nothing but the raw truth of their jealousy. So let this echo loudly. They thought they were writing your downfall, but they authored their own breakdown. Their story is no longer one of power. It's a warning, a living lesson carved into their life, showing everyone what happens when envy curdles into warfare, and warfare eats its own commander. Their confession proves it. They didn't just lose to you, chosen one. They lost to themselves. Number 12. Crying at the gates they tried to shut. Those who dig graves for others always end up begging not to fall into their own. Chosen one, their confession has reached its final stage. Not power, not victory, but desperation. They aren't confessing because they found remorse. They're confessing because they're drowning. Every attack they launched at you has ricocheted back, louder, heavier, and sharper than when it left their hands. The isolation they schemed for you, it has wrapped around them like chains. The reputation damage they tried to nail to your name, it's branded across theirs, permanent, unshakable. Their entire life is unraveling thread by thread, and there's no one left to hold the pieces together. Imagine this for a moment, a puppeteer who spent years pulling strings, only to find themselves tangled in the same cords, choking on their own web. That's exactly where they are now. Their allies are gone. Their reputation is ashes. And in their desperation, they're flailing, writing apology letters that sound hollow, booking sessions with spiritual practitioners, performing cleansing rituals they don't even believe in. They're trying to trick the universe with the same games they used on people. But here's the fact. The universe cannot be manipulated. It doesn't answer to crocodile tears or staged repentance. It answers to truth. Mercy isn't begged for, it's earned. And that's what they can't grasp. They thought mercy was another mask they could slip on when the heat got too intense. But the universe is surgical. It sees intent. It knows when words are manipulation wrapped in desperation. That's why nothing they try works. Every ritual leaves them emptier. Every plea echoes back as silence. They aren't facing you anymore. They're facing balance itself. And you might ask, chosen one, why are they begging now? Because they finally feel the weight they tried to dump on you. The sleepless nights, the paranoia, the humiliation, the suffocating loneliness. Everything they wanted for you has become their daily reality. They're not haunted by you. They're haunted by their own actions. So let this be the closing strike. Their confession isn't a redemption arc. It's the sound of a crumbling enemy, clawing at the walls of their own downfall. They aren't asking for forgiveness. They're begging for escape. But the gates they slammed on you are the very gates now locked around them. And the universe, chosen one, has thrown away the key. Number 13. Rising from the ashes they set. They tried to bury you, not knowing you were a seed. Chosen one, here's the truth their confession proves beyond a shadow of doubt. While they drown in the chaos of their own making, you rise. Every dart they threw at you was nothing but training. Every attempt to shatter you became resistance that forged your strength. They thought they were breaking you, but what they really did was activate the dormant power inside you. The kind of power that only wakes up under fire. Imagine this for a moment, a blacksmith hammering steel, sparks flying with every strike. To the steel, the hammer feels like punishment, but to the blacksmith, it's shaping. That's exactly what their attacks did to you. They thought the blows were damage. The universe knew they were refinement. What came out of their hatred was not a broken soul. It was a sharpened weapon of light. Boundaries are born from betrayal. You now know who deserves your energy and who doesn't. Intuition is forged in deception. You can sense lies before they're even spoken. Strength is carved from struggle. You stand taller now, sharper, unshakable, connected to universal flow in ways they can't comprehend. Every scheme they launched only pushed you deeper into alignment, and that alignment opened doors they could never walk through. And the results speak for themselves. New opportunities have unfolded in your path, opportunities they could never block because they weren't meant for them in the first place. New relationships, real ones, solid ones, have formed, bonds that their lies couldn't touch. Your spiritual awareness has expanded, giving you clarity that cuts through illusions before they can even reach you. You aren't just surviving, you're thriving, glowing, ascending. You might wonder, chosen one, did they succeed in anything at all? Yes, but not in the way they intended. They succeeded in building the very version of you they feared most. They didn't weaken you, they introduced you to your higher self. They didn't cage you, they launched you. Their hatred was the soil, their lies were the rain, their envy was the storm. And from that storm, you rose unshaken, blooming into someone they can't even stand to look at without trembling. So let this be carved in stone. You are not stronger in spite of them. You are stronger because of them. Their downfall was the spark of your ascension. Their collapse was the sound of your breakthrough. And while they beg for mercy in the ruins they created, you, chosen one, rise in power, grace, and purpose, untouchable, unstoppable, and undeniable. Number 14. The final confession. Truth crowned you all along. The loudest proof of innocence is when your enemies are forced to admit it. Chosen one, this is where their story finally breaks open. Their last admission is the most devastating blow they could ever deliver. Not to you, but to themselves. Because in the end, they confessed what the universe had already been echoing since the beginning. You were always innocent. Every accusation, projection, every scheme, a mirror of their own filth. Every suspicion you carried in your gut about them, correct. And every boundary you built, more than justified. Imagine this for a moment. A courtroom where your enemy is both prosecutor and witness, and after years of trying to bury you, they crumble and admit the truth in front of everyone. That's what their final confession feels like. They thought they were writing your obituary. Instead, they wrote your testimony. They thought their lies would stain your name forever. Instead, their own words became the stamp of your vindication. The truth doesn't defend you. It crowns you. And that's what this final admission does. It doesn't change who you are, chosen one. It simply confirms it. It proves you were never the villain, never the danger, never the liar. You were the target because you were the light. And the fact that they had to surrender, confess, and collapse proves that your power was never theirs to touch. Their surrender is total, their confession complete. And here's the bitter irony. They thought their words would save them, but even in confessing, they still serve you, because their admission is your vindication, your shield, your crown. The truth has set everyone free, even them, though they won't understand it for years. Freedom feels like punishment when you've lived in chains of lies for too long. But for you, chosen one, this is not an ending. It's the ignition of a new chapter. You've been tested by darkness and emerged as light. You've been attacked by lies and proven as truth. You've been cast as the villain and revealed as the hero. You are innocent. You are protected. You are destined for extraordinary things that no manipulation, no smear, no twisted campaign can stop. The universe always writes the final word. And through their confession, the universe has spoken. You are chosen. Your time has arrived, and nothing, not envy, not lies, not warfare, can delay the rise that was written into your destiny all along.